Friend of Tupac exposes shocking truth in court, accusing P. Diddy of involvement in the rapper's mysterious death. The trial shakes the music world. The night was electric with anticipation as the exclusive party kicked off inside P. Diddy's sprawling mansion. Celebrities, artists, and industry insiders filled the rooms, laughter and music echoing through the grand halls. But beneath the glitz and glamour, a dark tension simmered, one that only a few could feel. Marcus, a close friend of Tupac Shakur, arrived with a heavy heart, knowing this night could change everything. He had come hoping to protect his friend, to be a shield against the dangerous undercurrents swirling in the shadows. But as the hours passed, the mood shifted. Whispers turned into heated exchanges, and uneasy eyes darted across the room. Then, in a flash of chaos, the unthinkable happened. A gunshot rang out, cutting through the music and laughter like a blade. Tupac fell, the life draining from his eyes, and the room plunged into silence. Marcus was left reeling, his shock quickly turning into determination. He saw things others didn't: the hidden glances, the whispered threats, the secret alliances, and most disturbingly, a connection to P. Diddy that no one dared to voice aloud. Now, in the courtroom, Marcus prepares to take the stand and lay bare the truth behind that fateful night. His testimony could shake the foundations of fame, power, and justice forever. Marcus sat quietly in the courtroom, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. The murmurs from the gallery faded into a heavy silence as the judge called the proceedings to order. All eyes turned to Marcus, Tupac's close friend, and now the man accusing one of the biggest names in the music industry of being involved in Tupac's death. His mind raced back to that night, the details sharp and vivid as if it happened yesterday. The invitation to P. Diddy's mansion had felt like a chance to finally bridge gaps and heal old wounds, a place where artists from different camps could come together, even if just for one night. But the atmosphere was thick with something unspoken. There was tension beneath the surface, something dangerous, lurking. Marcus remembered arriving early. Tupac was already there, surrounded by friends, but keeping an eye on the room. The mansion was dazzling: luxurious marble floors, crystal chandeliers, walls lined with expensive art. But the beauty only made the darkness more jarring. Everywhere Marcus looked, he saw powerful figures exchanging subtle nods and guarded smiles, as if secrets were the currency of the evening. At first, the night played out like any other high-profile party. Music pulsed, cameras flashed, and laughter filled the air. But as the hours passed, Marcus noticed the undertones shifting. The laughter grew strained. Conversations became curt. Tupac's usual charisma seemed to fade under the weight of something heavier. There were moments when he would step away, phone pressed tightly to his ear, speaking in hushed, urgent tones. Marcus felt a knot of unease tighten in his stomach. Something was wrong. He tried to stay close to Tupac, watching the people who approached him. There was a new face, a man Marcus didn't recognize, dressed sharply, calm, but with eyes that didn't smile. The man talked to Tupac briefly, their words impossible to overhear, but Marcus caught the tension that followed. Then came the whispers about the hidden cameras in the mansion, cameras not just for security, but for surveillance, recording everything and everyone. Marcus had heard rumors before, but seeing it firsthand was chilling. It was as if P. Diddy wanted to control not just the party, but every secret, every move. As midnight approached, the atmosphere thickened with anticipation and fear. Marcus watched Tupac grow more guarded, more distant. Suddenly, there was a commotion near the back of the mansion. Shouts, hurried footsteps. Marcus moved toward the noise, pushing through a crowd that was suddenly panicked. And then the shot. The sound cracked through the night, sharp and final. Tupac collapsed, his life draining away amid the chaos. People screamed, scattered. Marcus was at his side in seconds, heart pounding, trying to stop the bleeding, desperate for help. But it was too late. In the days and weeks that followed, Marcus uncovered a web of silence and deception. Invitations mysteriously retracted, witnesses vanished or changed their stories, and P. Diddy's name surfaced again and again in quiet conversations, implied, but never spoken outright. Now, sitting in the courtroom, Marcus felt the gravity of what he was about to do. This wasn't just about Tupac's death. It was about exposing a system of power, control, and betrayal that had festered in the shadows of fame. He knew the risks. P. Diddy was powerful, with resources and influence that could silence many. But Marcus's loyalty to Tupac and his thirst for justice outweighed the fear. He took a deep breath and prepared to testify, knowing this was only the beginning of a battle that would change everything. The courtroom fell into a tense silence as Marcus Thompson stepped up to the witness stand, his gaze sweeping over the packed room. The judge, the jury, the press, and most importantly, Sean P. Diddy Combs, sitting stoically at the defendant's table. Marcus wasn't just recounting memories. He was exposing a hidden world cloaked in power and fear. "I wasn't just hired to stand guard," Marcus began, voice steady but heavy with the weight of his testimony. "I was a witness to things no one should ever witness, things that should have stayed buried." He described the mansion where Tupac Shakur met his tragic fate, a sprawling estate that gleamed with wealth but hid shadows darker than anyone could imagine. "From the moment I walked through those gates," Marcus said, "I knew this wasn't a normal job. The mansion was rigged with hidden cameras everywhere, not the kind to protect against intruders. These cameras watched every private moment." Marcus recounted the intricate surveillance network, tiny lenses hidden in smoke detectors, behind paintings, inside light fixtures, and even embedded in furniture. "They weren't monitoring the property for safety," he explained. "They were watching the people, guests, artists, staff, every move, every word captured and stored." The mansion was split into layers of access, secret wings and locked rooms that even many employees were forbidden to enter. It wasn't about privacy. It was about control. Questions weren't tolerated. Those who pushed for answers vanished. No one knew where they went and no one spoke about it. He told the court about Tupac's increasing paranoia during the days leading up to the night he was killed. "He confided in me. He said he felt trapped, constantly watched, scared for his life. He wanted out of that mansion, out of that circle, but felt powerless." Marcus's voice faltered briefly as he recalled Tupac's desperation. That night, when gunshots shattered the mansion's facade, Marcus described a chilling scene. There was no alarm, no immediate response from security. It was as if the shooting was allowed to happen. He revealed that several security personnel had received direct orders to stand down, and some entrances were mysteriously left unguarded. After the shooting, Marcus exposed a disturbing cover-up. Evidence was removed, witnesses were silenced or disappeared. It wasn't just an accident or a random act. It was orchestrated. He laid blame at Diddy's feet, asserting that the estate's security and operations were controlled under his command. Defense lawyers tried to tear down Marcus's credibility, questioning his motives and reliability. But Marcus's testimony was supported by damning evidence. Audio recordings secretly captured, corroborating witness statements, and leaked internal documents. "This was no random violence," Marcus insisted. "It was a calculated assassination, with Diddy involved at every step." The court heard from former staff and artists who described a mansion steeped in fear, intimidation, and silence. They spoke of hidden cameras used for blackmail and manipulation, ensuring that no one dared defy the system. "Everyone was a prisoner," Marcus said, "controlled by fear and watched constantly." As Marcus concluded his testimony, his eyes locked onto Diddy's calm, unreadable expression. "You built a cage," he said, voice unwavering. "And when Tupac tried to break free, you made sure he couldn't." The courtroom was shaken. The veil of glamour and celebrity had been torn away, revealing a chilling underworld of power, secrecy, and murder. This testimony was just the first crack in a facade that would soon crumble. The weight of Marcus Thompson's testimony still hung heavy in the courtroom air as the trial moved deeper into the web of secrets surrounding Tupac's final days, and the role Sean P. Diddy Combs played in the dark drama. Part 3 opened with Marcus recounting the days leading up to that fateful night, painting a portrait of a mansion gripped by fear and suspicion. Tupac was restless, Marcus said. He wasn't just worried about his music or fame anymore. He talked about threats, people watching his every move. He knew he was a target. Marcus described how Tupac confided in him during quiet moments, voicing suspicions about people inside the mansion who weren't who they seemed. He believed someone close was working against him, feeding information, setting traps. The tension in the mansion was palpable, with whispered warnings passed among staff and guests alike. Security protocols shifted. Doors that were once accessible became locked without explanation. Staff were pulled aside for retraining, while some longtime employees vanished without notice. The message was clear: trust no one. The mansion was no longer a safe place. It was a fortress of paranoia. Marcus detailed how hidden cameras became instruments of psychological torture. People were watched 24/7, conversations recorded, private moments weaponized. Footage was sometimes used to intimidate artists, blackmail them into silence, or control their actions. The fear wasn't just of physical harm, he explained. It was of exposure, humiliation, losing everything. On the night of the shooting, Marcus's account turned chilling. The gunfire came unexpectedly, but security didn't respond as they should have. Doors were left open, alarms muted. It felt like a trap. He described rushing to the scene, finding Tupac wounded and frantic, pleading for help. But delays and confusion bought the attackers time. Marcus recounted a startling revelation. Communications between the mansion's security team and external operatives who had a vested interest in silencing Tupac. It wasn't just about protecting the estate. It was about eliminating a threat. The courtroom listened in shock as Marcus testified about the subsequent cover-up. Evidence tampered with, surveillance footage erased or altered, witnesses intimidated into silence. There were people paid to keep quiet. Others disappeared. The mansion's secrets stayed hidden through fear and bribery. Prosecutors presented a trove of corroborating evidence. Emails showing suspicious orders, financial records revealing payments to unknown operatives, and statements from former staff who fled the mansion fearing for their lives. The pattern was clear. This was a coordinated effort to control and ultimately silence Tupac. Defense attorneys pushed back hard, accusing Marcus of conspiracy and slander, attempting to depict Tupac's death as an unfortunate accident unrelated to Diddy. But the mounting evidence and consistency of witness testimonies made their job increasingly difficult. Marcus's emotional testimony struck a chord. He spoke of Tupac's humanity, his dreams, his struggles, and his desperate attempts to escape a world of manipulation and danger. He wanted to change the narrative, but he was trapped, and the mansion was the cage. The jury was left to grapple with a world far removed from the glamour often associated with hip-hop royalty. Behind the scenes was a culture of control, betrayal, and deadly ambition. As Part 3 drew to a close, Marcus looked at the courtroom with fierce determination. This isn't just Tupac's story. It's about all of us who've been silenced by power, and it's time the truth came out. The courtroom buzzed with tension and anticipation. The case had evolved beyond a murder trial. It was now a reckoning with a legacy of fear, secrecy, and broken trust. The courtroom tension was palpable as the trial moved into Part 4. Ashton Kutcher, the close friend of Tupac and the accuser, took the stand with a heavy heart and a determined voice. The weight of his testimony was immense. This was more than a trial. It was a quest for justice, a fight to unearth the truth buried deep beneath layers of fame, fear, and power. Ashton began by recounting the chaotic aftermath of the shooting at the mansion. "I remember rushing to Tupac's side, hoping he'd survive, praying for a miracle. But the silence that followed was deafening. The house was locked down, and everything changed." He detailed how the mansion's atmosphere shifted overnight. A place once filled with music and laughter became a fortress of suspicion and silence. He described the calls he received in the following days, threatening whispers, warning him to drop the case, vague promises that the truth would never come out if he stayed quiet. "They wanted to scare me off," Ashton said, his voice firm. "But I owed Tupac more than silence. I owed him the truth." Ashton spoke about the hidden cameras Marcus had revealed, how footage from those cameras showed moments no one was supposed to see. Secret meetings, hushed conversations, and veiled threats. "We knew something was wrong. The cameras weren't about security. They were about control and manipulation." He recounted a chilling night when he tried to confront Sean P. Diddy Combs privately. "I looked him in the eye and asked why Tupac was targeted, why the mansion was turned into a prison. Diddy's silence was louder than any answer." Ashton described feeling the weight of the industry's power crushing down, realizing that the man sitting across from him was part of a deeper, darker web. The courtroom listened intently as Ashton detailed the suppression of evidence, how tapes were destroyed or hidden, how witnesses were pressured to recant, and how the music industry's elite worked to protect their own at all costs. It wasn't just about one man's death. It was about maintaining a system built on fear. Prosecutors presented new evidence backed by Ashton's testimony. Emails and messages between Diddy's inner circle discussing damage control, payments made to silence key witnesses, and records of unusual activities around the mansion during critical times. The web of deception was unraveling fast. Ashton also spoke passionately about Tupac's legacy, the music, the message, and the man's fight for justice. Tupac wasn't just a rapper. He was a voice for the voiceless, and that voice was silenced here, in this very mansion. His words resonated deeply with the jury and the gallery. The defense, facing mounting pressure, attempted to discredit Ashton, questioning his motives and painting him as emotionally biased. But Ashton remained composed, unwavering in his commitment to the truth. He called on the jury to see beyond the glitz and glamour, urging them to recognize the human cost hidden beneath. "This isn't just about money or fame. It's about justice for a friend, a brother, a legend. And it's about holding those responsible accountable." The courtroom was silent as Ashton finished. His testimony was raw, powerful, and heartbreaking. The weight of his words marked a turning point in the trial. Outside, media outlets and fans awaited the next developments. The case had become more than a scandal. It was a symbol of the fight against corruption and silence in the music industry. Ashton's courage had opened the door, but the path ahead was still fraught with challenges. The powerful forces at play were formidable, but the truth had begun to shine through the shadows. As the day ended, Ashton sat quietly, knowing the fight was far from over. But for the first time in years, justice felt within reach. The courtroom was heavy with anticipation as the trial reached its final moments. Ashton Kutcher, the friend who dared to speak out, had laid bare a tangled web of secrets, lies, and silence. The jury retired to deliberate, the weight of their decision felt by everyone present. Days passed with the public watching closely, media outlets dissecting every detail. The music industry, once untouchable, now trembled under the pressure of truth. Fans of Tupac and justice advocates rallied outside the courthouse, demanding accountability. When the jury finally returned, the room fell silent. The foreperson stood and read the verdict with a steady voice. We find Sean P. Diddy Combs guilty of conspiracy, obstruction of justice, and accessory to manslaughter in the death of Tupac Shakur. A gasp echoed, disbelief rippling through the courtroom. Diddy's calm facade cracked for the first time, the empire he built feeling the first real tremor. Ashton exhaled, a mix of relief and sorrow washing over him. This is more than a victory, Ashton told reporters after the trial. It's a step toward justice, not just for Tupac, but for all those silenced by power and fear. The verdict sent shockwaves across the industry, triggering investigations and reforms. Other voices emerged, breaking free from silence. The mansion's dark secrets were exposed, its culture of control dismantled piece by piece. But for Ashton, the fight wasn't over. This is just the beginning, he said. We owe it to Tupac, and to every victim of this system, to keep pushing for change. As he left the courthouse, Ashton glanced back once more. The fight for truth had won a crucial battle, but the road ahead remained long and uncertain. Outside, the sun shone brightly, a symbol of hope rising from the shadows of a painful past.